Well, welcome everyone. I'm really glad you can join us today. I've really been looking forward to offering you this information. My name is Dr. Sandra Grossman, but I'm much more comfortable if you call me Sandy. I'm going to be leading you through this webinar today. I will tell you that along with being a certified pet loss specialist, I'm also a pet mom. I'm a pet mom who went through a really difficult loss actually 14 years ago, and I had to go through that first and even second really difficult holiday time. It's my hope that by offering you these coping strategies and ideas for memorialization, you'll be able to have a more peaceful, a calmer holiday season, remembering your pets and all the love you shared with them. And in truth, that's what's really the most important thing. So I don't know about you, but whenever I do these webinars, I always wonder, well, who is this person giving me this information and what got them to be an expert or be able to share this information with me? So I'm just going to take a minute or two to introduce myself a little bit more and tell you about my journey to helping others. On that screen, you see my beautiful beloved cats. That's Mazel Tov on the left and Cowie on the right. And it was really in losing and then healing from that beautiful chocolate point boy on the left, that's Mazel Tov, that started this journey for me. Maz and I got to share 17 years together before I lost him to lymphoma. And that boy got me through so much of life's journeys, including grad school, the end of a long-term relationship, and losing both parents in a 4-year period. When I lost him, I was truly broken. I was single, I had no kids, and he was the greatest part of my life. He was my furry soulmate, my best friend, my fur kid, and definitely one of the greatest teachers in my life. I honestly didn't know how I could ever have any joy or find any purpose. Back in 2007, when I lost him, there wasn't a whole lot of pet loss support out there, even in a city like Los Angeles, which is where I lived at the time. Luckily, though, I did find one group and I started to begin to heal. And as I began to heal, I felt like Maz's paw was kind of pushing me in the direction of helping others. And my background's in psychology, but I was working mostly in the business sector. So I went back, I got trained as a pet loss specialist, and I've been doing this work for the last 11 years. What I do now is I support pet parents who are either going through the end of life with their beloved pets or who have lost a beloved pet. I do support groups, I offer individual sessions. Of course, now with COVID, the majority of my work is still virtually or by telephone. I also do a lot of work supporting animal caregivers like veterinary professionals, animal rescue groups, pet sitters, and anyone that's helping animals. And now I'm even offering my own online course for those who are interested in supporting grieving pet parents as well. I will tell you that I feel like my life has gone full circle and I feel really fulfilled. I love what I do, both because I get to spend most of my time around people who feel the same way about animals and pets as I do, but also because I get to see clients who are as broken as I was when I lost Maz and begin to heal, begin to have hope. And that's my way of honoring my Maz and my Cowie as well. So I know a lot of you may be very new to the grief process. And so I thought I would start out by offering some basic loss strategies. Once we do that, we're going to talk about coping strategies for the holidays. And then we'll wind up talking about ways to memorialize your pets, especially around this time. That can be a really crucial piece to the healing process. Then at the end, as I said, we will open it up to a question and answer section. One of the first things that you really need to remember is that the feelings you have are real and they're valid. Our society is just not good at grief, and pet loss really is a very disenfranchised type of loss. As you've probably experienced, similar to what I did, we can often be surrounded by those who just don't get our feelings and our grief. They'll say, you know, what was just a dog or just a cat, or there are so many pets looking for homes. And that can make all this so much harder, hearing statements like that. We know, though, that our pets are so much more. I'm sure your pets to you were also your soulmates, your best friends, your fur kids. And it's just important to keep in mind that those feelings you're having are true and valid, just as your love for your pets is true and valid. So please don't ever feel you need to apologize for them. Think about this. If you were to take a dictionary and look up the definition of grief, nowhere in that definition would you see grief described by how many legs the soul that you lost has. Love is love, grief is grief, and it's a special connection that we feel. So don't be embarrassed by your feelings. Don't feel bad by them. You have a right to have those feelings because you shared such a special relationship. The next thing we're going to talk about is the fact, and you've probably heard it, that grief has no timeline. One of the most common questions I get asked by people calling me is, how many sessions am I going to have to go to before I feel better? Or how long does it take before I feel better? And I always say, I wish I could send my clients some magic pills or fairy dust to make the pain go away, but it really doesn't work that way. In fact, you'll never find two people, even two people who love the same pet, who are going to grieve in the same way. Grief is very unique. How you grieve depends on things like your personality, your grief history, your relationship with the pet. Not only do two people never grieve the same way, but if you go through another loss later on, that grief journey is going to be different than this one. The point is that there really is no one right way to grieve, and there's no one timeline that everybody's going to take as they begin to heal. How many of you have heard this from a family member? Don't cry. You'll see it's going to get better in time. Or don't feel so bad. Or this one that really gets to me. Well, you know, they're in a better place now. It's like, no, the best place is with me. In general, as I mentioned, people are very uncomfortable with sadness, with grief. That's what makes this loss so hard. What's really crucial is if you can remember that there's no way around this grief. It's only through it. What does that mean? It means that you are going to have to feel that pain. You're going to have to shed those tears. And you're going to have to work your way through the grief. The feelings you're having are very real and they're valid, and they've got to find their way out. It's normal, it's understandable, and it's necessary for you to grieve and to mourn and to take your time to work your way through this grief. The good part about all this is the more you allow yourself to walk through this grief, the better chance you're going to have to come out to a place of peace, to be able to remember your pet with all the love and good memories that you share, rather than the grief and the tears that you're feeling now. I couldn't do this webinar justice without mentioning COVID. Honestly, I can do a separate webinar just talking about COVID and grief. But for now, at least I want to mention a few things, because having to go through COVID over this last almost 2 years now definitely has affected the way we grieve, the timeline that we grieve in, and it's made our grief more difficult. There's a few reasons why. The first reason is that Normally, when our pets were sick, we were able to be more active. We went to the appointments with them. We can have a whole family in there with us. Now, though, we had to sit in our cars. And that was so scary while our pets were getting the treatments or while our pets were staying at the vet's office. That definitely made this time more difficult. The second thing is, how many of us started working from home, right? And what happens when you work from home? You start spending more time with your pets. Your pets are now in your office. They're a big part of your day. So when they're gone, not is it a huge empty space at home, but it's a huge empty space in your heart. And it just makes it more difficult. It's more difficult to be at home without. The third thing is that we were all more isolated. We couldn't even be around a lot of our friends and family who might have been able to support us. It was harder to find support out there, professional support. And then lastly is, as we begin to come out of this time of COVID, it reminds us that we're having to walk away with COVID without our pets also. And that's okay. All these things definitely have added something to the grieving process and to the feelings of loss. And all those things too are why taking care of yourself and self-care are so very important to this process. I created this slide to emphasize the importance of self-care. You know, through our beloved pets' lives, we did everything we could to make sure they were taken care of, that they were happy, healthy, well taken care of. I hear all the time from my clients that they would get up 2-3 times during the night to give their pets water, medicine, let them go out for a walk. We are amazing pet parents, and we are amazing caregivers. That's not so much of ourselves, but now it is our job. Now it's the time where we really need to start taking care of ourselves. And the truth is, the more we take care of ourselves, the more we're able to honor the legacy of our pets. Because one thing I know for sure is that they would want us to be well, is that they want us to be happy. It really is a scientific fact that grief can suppress our immunity. And the last thing we need right now is to get sick on top of grieving. That's why I created this slide as a reminder to help you take care of yourself. To remember to breathe, remember to get rest. Grief is exhausting. To remember to do basic things like at least try to eat once or twice a day, to go for some walks and get some light exercise in, to be able to ask for and accept the help, and to honor your mind, your heart, your body, and your relationship with your pets. Also remember that there is support around you. Even though we're still a little bit in that COVID space, I can't tell you how important. Please be sure to put yourself on mute if you're not.
Okay.
I can't tell you how important to me it was in healing from Maz's loss, the fact that I was able to find that group. And today there's many more options, as there's more books out there on pet loss, there's more webinars like these, and there are virtual support groups. I will tell you that the virtual pet loss support group that I do is really amazing. I wasn't sure how it was going to be, what a virtual group may be like. But we have people coming from all over the country and even Canada. And what's really beautiful about these groups is that you do get to connect with others that understand, that are able to offer the compassion and support you need as you take this journey toward healing. I also do individual sessions, either by telephone or by virtually through Zoom. for those who feel they need more time to work through the grief. Just remember that you don't have to take this journey alone. There is support out there. We're going to talk now about some of the holiday coping strategies and ways to get through this time. And here's the thing, right? Holidays can be stressful enough, even if we're not grieving. I mean, there's this perception that we've got to be all holly and jolly during this time. But if you ask many mental health professionals, they will tell you that at this time, they're at their busiest. Why? Because it is a stressful time. So when we add on that, the fact that we're grieving, unless we find ways to heal and get support, this time can be almost unbearable. Part of the reason why the holidays can be so hard is these internal expectations that we often don't speak about, but they are there. One of them is that when we experience a loss, internally at least, we expect the whole world to kind of shut down just like we have. We can't understand how anyone could be decorating or celebrating or having fun when we've just lost this huge part of our hearts and lives. It's not unusual to feel yourself getting really angry at those around you and not even understanding why. Another expectation that we have is we did expect to get to the holidays and our pets would be by our side. We might have spent so many different holidays with them and thought, oh, okay, now we'll get to have one more holiday. And then we don't. Or maybe you got a new pet and you were looking forward to spending your first holidays together. And now he's not there, he or she is not there to be able to spend the time with. That can be really difficult. The second statement on this slide is so important to remember too, which is grief takes no holidays. A lot of people think, oh, I can't be sad around my family. I can't be sad around my friends. It's the holiday time. They want to celebrate. Yes, you can. There is no reason why you're going through a very difficult time. You can't put pain. You can't put grief. You can't put mourning aside. Allow yourself to feel whatever it is that you need to feel. So I'm going to talk about some of the coping strategies that myself and a lot of my clients have found helpful. And as we start to go through the holiday season, there's some important questions that we should ask ourselves. You know, I lost Maz right before the holidays and I had to figure all this out. And I think I came up with a plan that helped and I wanted to share it with you. And it was thinking about, did I even want to celebrate the holidays? Do you want to celebrate the holidays? Or do you just want to take the time for you? Do you need to stay home and avoid the holiday sites and even holiday music, which can be a big trigger for a lot of you? If you decide that, yeah, I do want to go out with my family or friends, think about these questions for a bit. Where are you going? Do those people have pets? How are you going to feel being around those pets? How are you going to feel around the people that are at the party? Do you think they'll be understanding to you? Take the time to think these things through. And then you see staying in the moment. That's something, it's probably one of the greatest things that our pets have taught us. Remember, now's the time to take care of you. If you have committed to being at a party and you start getting ready, and the more you're getting ready, the more you're saying to yourself, I just don't want to go. I can't do this. Then don't go. It's okay. Take this time for you. I'll share with you what I call the emergency exit. And I think it's important that if you do decide to go to a holiday, take your own car. That way, If you're there and it starts getting really difficult and you begin to struggle just being around anyone, you have a way to get out. And you may be able to share with the host how you're feeling, or you may even just have to say something like, I just don't feel very well. I've got a headache or I've got a stomach ache. But stay true to what's in your heart. Stay true to how you're feeling and follow that. And again, I really do say be careful of going to stores or malls around now. That holiday music can be so triggering. When I lost Moz, there wasn't things like Amazon, but now there is. Amazon could be your best friend. If we have to order gifts, just sit on the computer and have what you need delivered to you. There may be times, though, where we have to make some compromises. As I mentioned, I lost Moz shortly before the holidays. And at that time, I was in a very different career position, and part of my job was client relations. So I was the one obligated to go to all these holiday parties. What I had to do was I needed to find a compromise with my boss. So I got him to agree that I would go to those parties, but I would take along another employee with me, so that if I couldn't stay, or even if I couldn't go to a particular event, I had an alternate that could stand in for me. The truth is, though, there are those times when we can't always be about us. We may have work obligations. We may have family obligations that we have to deal with. If you are part of a family who has lost a pet, well, you may not feel like celebrating the holidays. You may have other family members in the home who do want to, especially if there's kids involved. That's when we have to find this compromise. You may want to talk to your spouse or partner, and maybe you can order the gifts, but they're the ones responsible for picking them up and putting the gift wrapping on and putting them under the Christmas tree. When it comes to meals, have the kids help, have them set the table, have them clean up, so it makes it easier for you. And then rather than cooking, why not treat yourself to a really nice meal that's ordered in? Or better yet, maybe it's possible in your area to go out to a restaurant. The point is that it is possible to take care of yourself while you begin to compromise at the same time. And then there's those traditions. I honestly think that this is one of the hardest parts, is the traditions that we shared with our beloved pets. And a big part of getting through the holidays in a healing and peaceful way is thinking about those traditions and adjusting them accordingly. Think about what traditions really mean a lot to you, that you truly want to keep. If there are traditions that are too painful to keep, think about changing them around a little bit. Think about coming up with new traditions that can still be healing for you. I know this was a big part of my healing process in the loss of Moz. Here are some ideas you may want to implement. So next week we have Thanksgiving, and I know a lot of families have a time where they go around the room and share what everybody's thankful for. Maybe change it up, and rather than sharing what you're grateful for, which could be hard at this time, have everybody share a favorite memory of your beloved pet. For those of you who celebrate Hanukkah, I know for me, when I lost Moz, the thought of lighting the candles without him sitting there waiting for me to do it just was impossible. And so I thought, you know what? I'm not going to light the menorah this year. But something kind of magical happened. I was actually in the grocery store walking down this aisle, and I saw these pretty candles. And one of them was a white frosted jar with a blue candle in it that matched Moz's eye. So I bought the candle, and what I did is each night of Hanukkah, I would light that candle first. And it kind of felt like I had Moz with me. And then I'd like the manure. So that's what I'm talking about, is changing it around, finding ways to make things comfortable for you. If it's hard to have a Christmas tree in the house, maybe you have a porch or terrace where you can keep it outside. I know today there are so many companies that make these beautiful pet memorial ornaments where you could have your pet's picture on them, or their name, or even a little saying. Finding ways to make traditions helpful, healing for you is a big part of the healing process, and it's okay to do. There really are no rules at this time. What a lot of my clients have found helpful is finding ways to give back, doing gifts of service. Very often, what can be very difficult is that after you lose a beloved pet, you start looking around and you realize how much of your pet's things you have. And for sure, there's going to be some things we want to hold on to, right? We're not going to want to get rid of a special blanket or a bed or a dish or a toy. And honestly, I recommend not getting rid of anything for the first couple of months. If it's difficult to see, put it all in a bag and then put the bag in the closet. While we're in this first month or two grief fog that we often go through, we don't make the best decisions, and you don't want to wind up getting rid of something that really meant a lot to you. But you may also find that you just ordered a new unopened bag of food, or there are toys that you haven't given them yet, or even unused medicines that haven't been opened. What a beautiful thing to do, to see if there's a rescue or shelter that can use this stuff. And you donate it in your pet's name. You may find yourself drawn where you want to do some volunteering, again, in their name. These are things that can be really helpful and help us remember the love that we shared with our pets. Perhaps the greatest gift that our pets give us is that of unconditional love. For a lot of us, having our pets is the first time that we got to really experience what unconditional love is. It's one of the greatest gifts that they give us. I mean, how many of you have seen those signs or mugs that says, I want to be the person my dog or cat thinks I am? They really see us for who we truly are. They love us for who we truly are, not for what we have or where we live. Well, now we have the chance to give ourselves, please put yourself on mute if you're not already on mute. Now we have the chance to give ourselves that same unconditional love. How do we do that? To realize that it's okay to grieve, to give ourselves permission to grieve, and to allow us to take care of ourselves, to do things that feel good for ourselves. Next to grief, the most common emotion that people feel after losing a pet is guilt. I will honestly say, in the 11 years I've been doing this, probably a good 95 to 98% of my clients feel guilty after losing a pet. We start questioning ourselves. Did I do too little? Did I do too much? Did I wait too long? Did I not wait long enough? And so when the holiday time rolls around, we begin to get this holiday guilt. If we feel like we do want to go to a party, we feel guilty. If we don't go, then we're worried that people will think we're not going because we've lost our pet, and even blame our pet. We question, we feel bad. Should I buy my existing dog a gift? But if I don't buy my dog a gift, then I'm going to feel bad about that. Do I do holiday cards with my existing pet? Because the one I lost is not there. What's fair to them? What's fair to me? All these questions. What we need to focus though on is how much our pets would love to see us get some support, would love to see us smile, would love to see us get love from others. Again, that what a beautiful way to memorialize them, by taking care of ourselves, knowing that that's all they ever really wanted, was to take care of us. So give yourself permission. If you feel like you want to go to a party, it's okay to take that grief break. We deserve it because we were just awesome pet parents. And then it's important to realize that you're not alone. As I talked earlier about COVID and how isolated we were, the world is opening up a little bit more. There are opportunities to meet with people, even if it's just outside. And for some of us, we really need that. We need our family, we need our friends, and that's okay. I do say choose carefully who you want to be around. You only want to be around those who you truly believe understand and are there to support you. And I did mention the idea of support. I still think that the majority of support groups are still virtual, but I do think probably somewhere mid 2022, you're going to see a lot of them start opening up in person. Reach out if you need the support, whether it's virtual or whether it's in person. Connect with people. Know you're not alone. I mean, think about it. I think we've got almost 50 people on this call right now. That's almost 50 people who understand because they're going through something similar. You don't have to do this alone. So we're going to start talking about different ways of memorializing our pets. And finding options to memorialize your pet can be one of the most healing things to do on this healing journey. For those new to the grieving process, the idea of finding a way to memorialize your pets could be difficult because it serves as a reminder that your pet is truly gone. It's important to honor however you feel. If you're not ready to do it yet, then don't. What I'm going to talk about here is a couple of reasons why memorializing is so important, a couple of the benefits for memorializing, and then I'm going to give you some options that you could think about doing. One of the most important things that memorializing does for us is it helps us to remember the good times that we shared with our pets. In order to heal, we must understand that the relationship that we once had with our pets is different. Now, please note, I'm not saying the relationship is over. The relationship is never over because the love never ends. But memorials do force us to remember. Maybe you have a service or you see a plaque, and those memories of your pets come to you. At first, the memories may make you cry, but the more you heal, smiles will replace those tears. Comfort will replace those tears, and warmth will replace those tears. That's a good thing about memorializing. Another important part of memorializing is that it encourages us to share with others. When we memorialize our pet, we share memories with family and friends. We can show them an honor object that we've created. We can ask them to join in a memorial service. Sharing with others gives us the opportunity to show others the love that we have for our pet. And is there anything more heartwarming than hearing a story from a friend or a family member about your pet that they remember that maybe you hadn't thought of? Stories from others can bring back a really lovely memory that might have slipped your mind, but now you get to have it in your heart forever. One of the benefits of finding ways to memorialize your pet is that it does help us to express and embrace our people. And some of you may think, well, I don't know if I really think expressing or embracing pain is a benefit, but it is. You know, I remember when I lost Maz, I could not stop crying. And I finally went out about a week or two with a couple of friends for lunch, but I cried my way through the lunch. And after the lunch, I walked with one of my friends to the car and I apologized to her. And I said, I'm so sorry. I just can't seem to stop crying. And I'll never forget what she said to me. She said, you know, if God didn't want us to have the tears, he wouldn't have given them to us. It's okay to cry. I also went to a holistic veterinary conference, and there was this vet who was talking about the fact that grief can really suppress our immune system and even build up some toxins in our body. So he talked about the fact that not only were those tears helpful emotionally, but they actually help to release some of the toxins. Tears actually contain stress hormones that get excreted from our body when we cry. Studies have showed that crying stimulates the production of endorphins, which is our body's natural painkiller, and it releases those feel-good hormones. It's good to cry. It's healthy to cry. It helps with sadness and it helps with stress. I mean, think about it. Typically after crying, your breathing and your heart rate decreases. You're in a little bit of a calmer state. If you hold in those tears, though, it's very likely that you could set yourself up for feeling more anxiety, more depression. Feel the pain, allow your tears to flow, and know that it's normal and it's good. It's part of the grieving and the healing process. I think a big benefit of memorializing our pets is that it does allow us to search for meaning. When a loved one dies, it's natural to ask those why questions. Why did they have to die? Why does it hurt so much? Why did that have to happen to them? That's really a very normal part of the grief journey. Asking those questions is good. It encourages us to think and search for meaning, right? And sometimes that meaning that we search for is not necessarily the meaning of their death, but the meaning of their life and why that precious being was a part of your life. For me, I happen to be a true believer that there is some kind of divine force that guides us and leads us. Maybe your pet entered your life for a reason. Perhaps it was to give you solace. Perhaps it was to give you happiness. Maybe it was to get you through a difficult time. Or maybe it was to help you find your purpose, like Maz helped me find my purpose. Maybe, just maybe too, you were chosen to help that pet go through their lifetime and take them to the end of their life, to help to end the suffering or to help be there for the end. It's just different ways of thinking, and whatever works for you is the right answer. Again, there's no one right answer. It's finding what works for you. It's finding what feels true in your heart. So I'm going to talk a little bit about options for memorialization. And there are numerous ways you can find to memorialize your pet. When I work with my clients, I always kind of jokingly say that it's like throwing Jell-O at a wall and seeing what sticks. You need to find ways, again, like I said, that are true to you, that are true to your heart, that have meaning, that reflect your relationship with your pet. There's no right or wrong way. It's all about what feels true to you and what feels true in your heart. We talked about this a little bit, which is donating things or money in your pet's need. Most of nonprofits out there, especially now, can use the help. They need things. Maybe you can donate necessities like food or paper towel. Or maybe you want to donate special treats or things that bring comfort, like blankets or beds and pillows. And of course, almost all nonprofits could always use financial help. Again, you may find yourself drawn to start doing some volunteering. I've had clients who have found that they wanted to help homeless pets. That could be really hard, but boy, do those pets appreciate the love and attention that they get. How or when you decide to volunteer or to donate, that's really up to you. Again, it's staying true to yourself. It may not feel right, and even that's okay. Being creative. There's been actually some research that shows that creativity can help in our grief. Remember your pet by letting your creative juices flow. It could be incredibly healing to help find that creative outlet. Some people do it by writing a song or a poem or a story. Some people do it with photography or painting or making a scrapbook that outlines your life and your love with your pets. If you want a painting of your pet, but you don't have the talent or time, there are many artists who will work from photographs that you can send them. You find a lot of options like that using Etsy. Or if you want to go somewhere in between, there's even companies out there who will transform a photograph into a paint by number kit that you can paint. All you need to do is go to Google and type in photo into paint by number, and you'll see that there are many different companies that'll come up. This is one that I particularly like, and many of my clients have found much comfort doing something related to nature. It may mean setting up a memorial garden in the backyard with special plants and bushes, maybe buying a memorial stone or getting some Tibetan prayer flags. It can be so healing to watch those plants grow. I will tell you that years ago, I had a client named Eddie, and Eddie lost his little Maltese, and he shared this story about one of their favorite things to do was to go outside on the back porch before he went to work, and he would sit with his dog and have a cup of coffee and read a newspaper. And after his dog died, he found that he hadn't been able to even go outside and that some of his plants were dying. So we came up with this idea to make a memorial garden. He went out, and his dog's name was Doug. He went out and he got what he called the Dougie bushes. And he planted the bushes, he even put a little bit of cremains there. He bought a little memorial stone. And so what he started doing is in the morning, instead of sitting on the porch with his dog, he'd take a lawn chair and go out to the memorial garden and talk to Dougie and have his coffee and read his newspaper. If you don't own a home, you could do something similar on a smaller scale. You can use a balcony. You can even have a plant inside. You may even want to go to a favorite spot that you shared with your pet and plant a tree or a bush there. There are also a lot of different plaques or urns or jewelry that you can get. If there was a certain time and place that meant a lot to you and your pet, you may want to have a plaque created and put it where that place was. Some veterinary offices and even some dog parks have memorial walls or walkways where you can actually buy an engraved brick or stone. Then there's Best Friends. I don't know if you've heard about that organization, but they have a great place that you can go visit them in Utah. And there they have this place called Angel's Rest. And you can actually purchase a wind chime. and they'll put your pet's name on it. And when the wind blows, you hear all these beautiful chimes going. You can actually go visit the sanctuary, and they'll tell you where your chime for your pet is. Some people like to keep a bit of their pet with them at all times, so they want to put some of the cremains into jewelry. The cost of this is dependent on the materials that are used. One tip that I always give people is that if you are putting cremains into like a necklace or a keychain, take a bit of super glue and use it on the screw head so that it stays closed and none of the cremains can get out. Cremains can also be infused into glass for vases, sun catchers, different pieces of jewelry. What I do recommend too is that if you are going to do it and you're going to use a company where you've got to send in the cremains, be sure not to send in a lot, or think about how much you want to send in. Because God forbid, if there was an accident or it got lost, you would be crushed if you didn't have those cremains. So think about how much you want to send. And then they have these beautiful personalized urns that are also available in every shape and design. There are some companies that'll even let you design your own urn. It's really about doing some research. That's how you find these things. I'm not a very creative person, but I do like the idea of creating a book or a video. And keeping memories safe is so important. One way to do that is by doing some type of book or video. And if you're not as creative like me, you can use a company like the Shutterfly website, where you get to pick out how you want everything laid out and what pictures you want to use. And they give you this beautiful hardcover book that can tell the story of love between you and your pet. It's fairly easy to put together a pretty high quality product. Videos are another way to capture those memories. You may want to think about doing a video and putting together some meaningful music. That could be a very loving tribute to the love that you shared with your pet. After they're completed, you can share them with friends if you want. I think now you can even put them on YouTube. So that's another option for you. There are also today a lot of companies, a lot of sites that are offering these online memorials, a place to honor your pet and get to say a little something and put a picture there. Some do charge a fee, some have restrictions on what can be posted, but there are others. Like I know there's critters.com or memorialpets.com, and those allow you to post a free memorial. One of my favorite things to do is lighting a virtual candle. There's a site called gratefulness.org where you can actually light a candle and have some quiet time and get to write something. And you could visit that candle because it stays lit, I think, for either 48 or 72 hours. You can even share the candle with others and ask them to write something. All of this can be very therapeutic. And again, all you need to do is Google and find what works best for you. This is probably my favorite. This is what I did for Moz. I actually did have a memorial service for Moz where I created a memorial book. And I invited just several friends who knew Moz to come to a park, and we all shared special memories. We played Marley songs. Moz and I were big Marley fans. And then we released some balloons. And of course, I know this was back in 2007, so I know it's not good for the environment, but back then they really didn't say anything about it. But this is really a favorite of my clients too. And I think what makes it so good is that there are so many options. It's really, the variations are endless when it comes to planning a memorial. And why not have a memorial for a pet, right? We have funerals for people. Why can't we have a memorial service for a pet? Some clients like to have a lot of friends and family join them. I actually was asked to share at one of my clients' memorials, and they did this amazing job. They had pictures and a rainbow bridge made out of balloons. It was really something to see. But you may want to do something smaller, more intimate setting. Some have really structured events with music, while others like just kind of going with the flow. The memorials can really be held in whatever venue is most comfortable for you. The important thing is that the location should have meaning and honor the relationship that you shared with your pet. Today, we even have animal chaplains that can help you create and even facilitate a pet memorial service if that's what you want to do. Whatever the method or memorialization that you choose, finding a way to honor your pet and the love you share really will go far in helping you begin to heal from the loss. This is one of my favorite sayings. What is grief but the perseverance of love? And isn't that true? We grieve so deeply because we love so deeply. But the best way that we can honor our beloved pets is by taking those baby steps towards healing. For knowing that they're always going to be with us in our hearts, spirit, whatever is comfortable for you. The other thing is, please remember that you're not alone, that you don't have to take this grief journey by yourself. Whether you want to reach out to friends and family who are understanding, or whether you want to reach out to more professional support, don't feel like you have to do it alone. Like I said, you've got almost 50 people on this webinar with you. I like this saying too. It's the glow stick saying. I don't know if any of you have heard it, but it's okay to be a glow stick sometimes, because sometimes we need to break before we shine. Look, it can be hard to grieve. It can be very hard to mourn, but it's important to allow yourself to do that. Be that glow stick. You may need to break at first in order to be able to heal. Allow yourself to find ways to honor your past. Allow yourself to find people who understand. Take good care of yourself. Practice self-care. I can only tell you, like I said, 14 years ago, I was so broken. And healing from this grief, it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of time. It doesn't happen overnight. And sometimes we just need to take a leap of faith. I know I did. I didn't know what I was doing when I first reached out to the group. I just knew I had to do something. I had to do something not only for me, but for Maz too, because he deserved it. So that's the end portion of the information that I want to share with you. I did want to share my contact information. Either one of those telephone numbers you can reach me with. That's my email address. That's my website. If you go to the homepage of the website, on the right-hand side is a place where you can register for the support groups if that's something that you're interested in. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to open it up. I'm going to stop the share and open it up and allow for some questions. I will tell you that if you saw the email I sent out, I told people if they had questions that they can send them in by email too. And we did have several questions, but I thought what I would do is kind of intermingle those with any questions or thoughts that you may have. I will start with one of the questions that I got. And actually it was a few of them was kind of in the same vein. So I thought that I would kind of put them all together. And basically those questions had to do with family and friends, and I had a woman who had a friend who she thought would understand and really said something horrible when she had to euthanize her pet. And again, like I said, my suggestion to those of you who are wondering what to say, how much to say to a friend, is really think about, have they ever been through a loss? Are they pet lovers? And if something is said that is kind of inconsiderate and mean, that definitely is a hint, right? That that's not somebody you're going to want to rely on in the future. Actually, it's okay to kind of shut them out for a while. So just remember that. Remember too, I mean, I always kind of feel bad for those people who don't get it, because in a sense, it means they never got to understand that special love that we know. I'm going to use Marshall's help now and see if there is any questions or comments that people sent in.
Yes, we have a question from a Miss Sharon, and she said, I only own exotic pets, birds and reptiles, and many of my pet sitting clients' pets are exotics as well. I have a hard time finding a bereavement gift or other way to memorialize a lost pet that is not geared towards a cat or dog. Do you know any good online resources for this? Coincidentally, I have an answer for this as well.
Okay, sure.
If no one's heard of it, there is a website called Etsy, E-T as in Tom, S-Y. Etsy specializes in things just like this. It is a collaborative online store where lots of artists come together and have created like an Amazon of many different personalities. And you can actually get one of these artists to create you a very personal, very handmade, very handcrafted type of memorial. One of the things that my brother doesn't do it anymore, but he used to blow glass, and he had a lot of clients that cremated their pets, and they would send him their pets' ashes, and he would actually put them into different types of glass ornaments that they requested.
Oh, that's neat.
You can find those types of artists on Etsy as well. That is a wonderful place for all of you to check out. And it will also give you wonderful ideas of memorialization. Sorry, Sandy, I just had to get that out there. It's a great place.
I mean, yeah, I appreciate it. It's not something I would have thought of. And yeah, that is true. That's a difficult, I would just say, if you're creative, also, you may want to create something like a picture, or like we talked about, the paintings that certain companies will do, or that paint by number. Maybe something like that will bring them comfort.
Lisa Grant asks, you mentioned in the memorial service idea something regarding the Rainbow Bridge. Can you please repeat that? I couldn't quite hear.
Oh, sure. So I went to this memorial that one of my clients did, and what they did was they bought a bunch of balloons and they actually created their own rainbow bridge with it. I'm not sure what they did with the balloons after, but it was beautiful. They were all different colors and some were in different shapes, and they just kind of had it hanging over this patio area where we did the memorial service.
I love that. Thanks, Sandy.
Sure, Lisa.
Sandra, I just wanted to offer a resource. I was away from the screen for a few minutes, so I don't know if anyone mentioned the Association for Pet Loss and Bereavement. I'm sure you know about it.
Yes, and they do have some chat rooms too, yes.
And a lot of educational information that people have found very helpful.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you.
APLB.org, I think.
Okay, thanks for that, Sheila.
Sure.
You okay?
And we have Faye asks, oh, I'm sorry, I was on the wrong one. It is from Faye. Do you have some ideas of specific things to do or to give someone who has lost their pet? Any books or resources to share?
Yeah, so and it depends. One of my favorite books is a book by Dr. Alan Wolfelt, and you can get it on Amazon. He actually has a lot of good resources. I think his website is Center for Loss and Transition, but there's a really good book called When Your Pet Dies that allows you to do some journaling and actually working through your loss. There are some other good children's books. One that I really like is called The Invisible String. And what I can do too is I have a pretty good bibliography, and what I can do is when we send you, I'm going to send you a letter along with the link for this webinar. I could definitely attach some of the books that I recommend as well. In terms of what to do, and that's an interesting thing. And I honestly say a lot of times it's just about being there. So many people will say, you know, tell somebody who has lost a pet, well, if you need anything, let me know. I always kind of look at it differently, right? Because when you're in the midst of this deep grief, a lot of times you don't know what you need. So sometimes I'll send that family a pizza so they don't have to worry about dinner. Or you can send, but it's really about thinking about what you may know about that specific person and how you can help them the most. So I hope that helps. I also actually like, and I think the company is in still in existence through the pandemic, but it was called Prayers on the Wind. And they make these beautiful Tibetan prayer flags with paws on them. And that's one of my favorite things too. So I did also want to get to another question that was sent in. And actually 2 or 3 people wrote about this using different words. So I'll just kind of put them all together. And it has to do with those of you who have existing pets. And how do you help existing pets? And even somebody asked, do I think if that pets grieve? And absolutely. I've seen it many times. Now, here's the thing. Pets grieve in their own way. It's very often is not like a person's going to grieve. And in a way, I think they're luckier, right? Because they don't do a lot of the ruminating. They don't worry, you know, think about, well, where are they? Is there having? They just know that they miss their friends. And especially if the pets spent a lot of time together, very often they will miss them and they will grieve for them, but it's going to be in their own way. I do always say that if you do have 2 dogs, 2 cats that are close, and you start noticing certain things like the existing pet is not eating well, or just having behaviors, you know, maybe urinating inside or not sleeping well, please do because they can find ways to help you. They may even be able to give you some medication that will just make things a little calmer for the pet, just for a little while. So I did want to at least address that too. Marshall, did you have others there?
Yes, I have a couple of them coming through. What were the books that were recommended? This person missed them.
Okay, so yeah, one of the ones I really recommend is by Dr. Alan Wolfelt. It's called When Your Pet Dies. And he does, I believe, have some other books that are not specific to pet loss on grief that are good too. Like he has a day by day, like so a little meditation that you can do. But something like that would apply to a person or a pet. There are also some good books, and somebody did ask me about if there are any books regarding the afterlife. A couple that I like are one called Signs, and I think it's by Laura Lynn Jackson. Maybe I know some of my clients are on here that may have had the book, that they could correct me if I'm wrong. Another one I like is actually by Alison Dubois, which is called We Are Their Heaven. There's another one that's called Animals in the Afterlife. So those are a few in that topic that I would recommend, that a lot of my clients have found very helpful.
Todd, if you can hear me, yeah, absolutely. If you would like to share with everyone how you memorialized your pet, we'd love to hear it.
Well, what I did, I have one of the pendants with her ashes in it. Her name was Crooked Head, and she passed away in August. And what I also did was, my mom passed away in January. And what I did was I also took some of her ashes and put them at her grave, because they liked each other. And I just happened, when my mom died, I played Amazing Grace at the funeral, and I still had it on my iPhone. So when I had to put my cat down, I played Amazing Grace while they put her down. So.
Oh, I love that. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Todd.
Angie asks, thank you for doing this webinar. It is very helpful. Can you speak more about the guilt aspect? How do we forgive ourselves?
Yeah. And that is one of the most challenging things. It's so hard, right? And I mean, again, I could spend an hour on this, but I'll just give you a few thoughts. And one of them is this: we bring these pets into our life, and it's kind of like having a perennial toddler, right? Because it's not like a human child where they eventually grow up, and as they get older, they don't need you as much. Our pets need us as much from that first day we get them as puppies or kittens, all the way to that last day. And so our normal thought is, well, I have to be like Superman, Superwoman. I've got to have all the answers or do all the right things. And nobody can do that. It's really unrealistic to think not even vets have all the answers. And I think part of it is just working on realizing that every decision that we made at the time we made it, we made out of love. That's why we're all here. We're all those people that love our pets so much. I mean, in hindsight, can we wish we did things differently? Sure, we could. We could learn different lessons, but those lessons shouldn't become life sentences, and they shouldn't take away from the love that we shared with our pet. In terms of things you could do, and this is something I recommend to a lot of my clients, think about writing to your pet and apologize, saying all the things you need to say. Let it out, don't hold it in. Something that can be even harder, but very healing too, is take some time and write a letter from your pet to you. What do you think they'd want you to know? What do you think they would say about the guilt? And then finally, I'll leave you with this thought too. And I don't remember your name, but if you want to, I have a very good article on guilt. If anybody wants it, you can feel free to email me as well. But think about this. Let's say your guilt is about, you feel like you waited too long before you euthanized your pet. Put yourself in your very best friend's position. And let's say your very best friend came to you and said, I feel horrible. My dog suffered. I waited too long. What would you say to your best friend? Because now is your time to be your very best friend. So think about what you would tell someone else and give yourself that gift. Tell yourself that. So I hope that helps.
Linda asks, how do you know when to push yourself to try and move on and be open to joy again versus honoring the grief?
Yeah, that's a good question. And here's what I'll say. And I tell my clients this all the time. I don't think we ever get over a loss, but we can get through it, right? I mean, my dad died 22 years ago. My mom died 18 years ago. Maz is 14. Callie is 9. I have every one of their pictures on my end table. I still talk to them. I still think about it. Will I always grieve for them? I will. I'm always going to miss them. It doesn't mean that it's going to hurt as bad as it did 18 years ago or 14 years ago when I lost Mom. So I wouldn't say it's moving on, but I'd say it's moving through, because you will always keep them as a part of your heart. I have 2 little crazy ones running around here, and their names are Jeter and Faith. And I always tell Jeter and Faith, you have a big brother and big sister in heaven. So I kind of incorporate them into my daily life. In terms of if you're saying when to find joy and maybe consider bringing another pet into your life, I do recommend in general that you do wait at least, I'd say 30 to 60 days. And the reason I say that is because the first month or 2, we are in that grief fog. Nothing makes sense. And the thing that you don't want to do is you don't want to bring in a pet, and you don't want to bring them in a pet with giving them a job to do. Like, their job is to make you feel better. Their job is to take away your grief. It's never going to work. I can't tell you the number of clients who come to my group and they have gotten other pets, but they're still grieving their loss. So I'd say give yourself some time to heal, and ask yourself this when you're thinking about getting another pet. Why do I want to get another pet? And if the answer is, I'm so sad, I just can't handle being alone, that's not the right reason. But if the answer is, I think I can love again, I think I have love in my heart to get, that's a really good reason to get another pet. So I hope that answers your question.
Can I make a personal statement, Sandy? Do you mind?
Absolutely. Sure.
In my experience, leading up to meeting Sandy, one of the things I learned from everything was that always be careful to not give too much gravity to the grief. It is safe to let go of it whenever you choose. It is not letting go of the memories or the love of that pet. So the grief can be separated from everything. You do not have to carry the grief in order to keep the memory. When I learned that about myself, I was able to forgive myself, and I was able to actually feel like I had made a milestone. So that's just my personal observation. Thank you, Sandy.
Sure. And that's a great way of stating it too, Marshall. And it is very true. We don't have to live in sadness forever. And I just, want to qualify that when I say, I still grieve for my mom or my dad or Maz. It's not like I cry every day. I don't. On an anniversary, on a birthday, I might shed a tear or 2. But yeah, that large part of that grief, it's not there. Now I just remember all the love we share. So thanks for sharing that, Marshall. Is there anybody else who has any questions?
We have a good group. You can unmute yourself and just talk if you would like. So
I have something that I did when my little girl died. I took her water bowl and put holes in the bottom of it and put a plant inside.
That's beautiful.
And then that was her. I mean, that was her water bowl, and it had a living plan in it. So that helped me.
Yeah, you know, and I actually kind of similar to that. I saw something, and it might have been on Facebook, where somebody took the collar of their pet's collar and put it around a planter and kind of put a plant in there too. It's a great idea. And it's a great idea because it's something living. So it's like a piece of them is still living. Thank you for sharing that.
I did do one other thing that was kind of unusual. My dog was a therapy dog, and I took her up to hospice, and they have a rock garden up there. So I'm painting her on a rock using a little bit of her ashes and putting her up there. She spent 5 years up there as seeing patients, so she deserves to be there.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Anybody else have any thoughts? Things they're struggling with, things they want to do and they're not quite sure if they're able to or want to know if it's okay? Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and wrap up. We'll give you a little bit of information. So Marshall is going to get the link for the webinar ready for me. And sometime between now and next Sunday, you will get an email from me, and that email will have the link. It'll have a holidays coping strategies handout for you. If you want to watch the webinar again, if you want to share the webinar with others, feel free. I do ask this, you know, I do put a lot of time and planning and thought into these webinars. So if you do share it with others, please do keep the Pet Loss Partners branding on it and let people know about us, okay? All right, everyone, it's been my pleasure being with you. I love getting a chance, like I said, to be around others who I know get it. Okay, and I'm wishing you a peaceful Thanksgiving, a peaceful holiday season. Feel free to reach out to me and just know you're not alone. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Have a good rest of your Sunday.
Thanks, Sandy.
Here. Thanks, Lisa. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank
You're most
you.
welcome. Hi, Nicole. Thanks.
Bye.
Cute.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody. Good luck.
Sure, thank you.
Bye.
Angie,
you.
thanks. Sure.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank you, Sandy. Loved it.
Oh, good, Lynn. Thanks. I'm so
Another
glad. you
great
found-
session.
Thanks. I'm so
Thank
glad.
Happy Thanksgiving. Bye.
Yes, you too. We will be having the group on Wednesday. So,
Okay. I'm not sure if I'll join, but yeah, but thank you.
okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Well, let me shut the recording off. I always forget about that part, Marshall.